Welcome to Recap Kun. The protagonist of the story is a girl named Lim Ju. Since she was a young child, people have made fun of her appearance and called her ugly. As a result, Lim Ju's constant wish was to somehow magically change into a lovely fairy girl so that everyone would like her. However, when she made an attempt, she ultimately suffered the consequences of being trolled. Years later, she has grown up and is a high school student. At her school, Lim Ju has been the target of bullying due to her appearance. Some of the students even make her run errands for them. She searches for her one and only friend, Hu Bin, while doing errands. Because of Hu Bin's kindness to her, Lim Ju finds him attractive and has developed feelings for him. Later, in the cafeteria, Lim Ju makes the decision to talk to Hu Bin about her feelings and requests a meeting for tomorrow morning. And her bullies get to know about it. At home, Lim Ju bakes cookies and composes a letter of confession for him. When she meets with Hu Bin the following day and declares her love for him, he is taken aback and tells her that he was only being kind to her because he felt sorry for her for being an outcast. Then he calls her ugly and warns her to be wise enough not to approach him again. After he swiftly departs, Saimi and her friends show up and begin recording the occasion on camera. They immediately begin making fun of her for being turned down. When Lim Ju asks them why they detest her so much, Saimi responds that it is because she is so ugly. Upon returning to her class, she discovers that everyone was only anticipating her arrival in order to make fun of her rejection. Everyone starts calling her ugly and laughs. Poor Lim Ju has run out of options and has decided to take her own life. Just as she is ready to jump, a guy spots her and rushes over to grab hold of her, pulling her down so fast that Lim Ju loses her glasses and is unable to see the man clearly. Lim Ju quickly stands up. His name is Lee So. He scolds her, tells her not to do this ever again, and asks that she come downstairs with him. Lim Ju goes after him. But since she's technically blind without her glasses, she persistently begs for his assistance, and he tries to ignore her, but he hears her falling to the ground. Lim Ju sobs, fearing he has abandoned her, but then he appears in front of her. He offers her piggyback and starts climbing down the stairs. Lim Ju gets curious and asks if he has previously lost someone in the same way. Lee So gets silent for a second and tells her to shut her mouth. When they exit the building and he gets her a cab, Lim Ju asks him to stop being depressed since the person he lost did not want him to be depressed. Upon arriving at home, he begins to recall his memories of when he failed to stop his friend from jumping off of the roof. Lim Ju, in the meantime, learns about makeup to look better to please others. She wears makeup to school the following day to surprise everyone, but that also goes horribly wrong. Upon returning home, Lim Ju finds out that her parents are relocating to a new city. She is relieved that she will not have to attend the same school anymore. Next, in an attempt to completely transform herself, she conducts extensive research on the application of makeup and the use of beauty products. The next day, they relocated to a different city. And the other day, Lim Ju gets ready and heads to her new school to begin a new chapter in her life. However, she does not know this is the beginning of her love triangle. She then meets Lee So, but none of them recognize each other. The teacher asks him to escort her to the class. As they're walking, he suddenly stops and Lim Ju bumps into him and her foundation sticks to his jacket. Later he finds out about it and gets angry. Meanwhile, as Lim Ju is touching up her makeup and Lee So throws the jacket on her. Thanks to her new appearance, Lim Ju manages to make new friends, with whom she later hangs out and has a great time. At home, as she was talking to her new friends over the group chat, her brother clicks her pictures of her and threatens her to buy him a limited edition comic book, or he'll post the pictures online and everyone will know her truth. To get the comic book for him, she heads to the comic book store. But just as she reaches for the book, Lee So snatches it out of nowhere. She starts to fight for it, and ends up falling onto him. Lee So recognizes her from the last time he saved her from suicide. Lim Ju gets startled to see Lee So there. She hands over the book to him, and quickly leaves the place. Lee So is confused as to why she was ignoring him when he saved her and helped her. Afterwards, Lim Ju goes to a nearby store where she notices Saimi and her friends there. She begins to think back on those awful times when they tormented her, gets depressed, and flees the scene. Meanwhile, a person is getting chased by a few bikers. He succeeds in tricking them and advances, but just as he does, Lim Ju appears in front of him, causing them both to stumble. When she gets up to see how he is doing, the handsome guy's name is Han So. He takes off his helmet, and, seeing the bikers approaching again, gets up to run away. After chasing for a while, they end up cornering him. They were going to hit him when they heard the police siren and made the decision to move on from him for the time being. Lim Ju comes down from the stairs as they leave and suddenly bumps into Han Seo. Lim Ju gets scared of him and runs away. However, she also takes his helmet with her. Afterwards, she goes to return the comic book at the store, but is afraid of meeting Lee Seo again. Nonetheless, she goes inside and grabs one of the books, but unfortunately for Lim Ju, Lee Seo shows up there. While attempting to cover her face, Lim Ju tripped and fell. Lee Seo moves fast to prevent her from getting hurt. Lim Ju gets embarrassed and quickly stands up. Lim Ju then learns that Lee Seo has recognized her. However, she doesn't know that he only recognized her from when he met her at the rooftop. She asks him to not tell anyone, as this will make everyone hate her at school if they find out her truth. Lee Seo agrees to keep her secret, though she doesn't trust him and asks him to sign a confidentiality contract with her. Lee Seo notices how she has copy-pasted the contract from an old comic book and refuses to sign it. But then he discovers that Lim Ju also happens to have a very limited edition comic book that he has been searching for so long. Lim Ju finds this as an opportunity and makes him sign the contract to keep it a secret and also buy her stuff. As they decide to leave, she promises to give him the comic book tomorrow morning at school. The next day, she puts the comic book to give to him. Although, she is still baffled as to how he recognized her despite all of this makeup. As they were heading to school, a biker suddenly comes through, who happens to be Han Seo. Her friends introduce him as Han Seo-jun and informs her how he used to be friends with Lee Seo, but now there's a World War III going on between them. The teacher welcomes back Han Seo as he just returned from abroad, and asks him to sit next to Lee Seo, but he refuses and goes to sit at the last bench at the corner. Lim Ju blinks at Lee Seo since she thinks that he knows her secret, but Lee Seo gets confused by her abnormal behavior. Later during break, she comes running towards Lee Seo and tells him to meet with her on the rooftop. Lee Seo gets confused. Nonetheless, he goes on the rooftop to meet with her. She gives him the jacket and the bag that has the comic book in it. Lee Seo asks the reason for her to be so friendly with him. Lim Ju gets confused. She tries to remind him how they met outside the school and sort of became friends. But Lee Seo doesn't remember anything like that and tells her to stay away from him. Lim Ju is now even more confused about whether he knows her secret or not. She quickly runs to get the book back from him and grabs the bag from him. At home, she gets a call from Lee Seo. He asks for the thing she needed to give him back but doesn't specify the item and asks to meet with him at the coffee shop. Lim Ju is confused as to how did he get her number and what did he want, the book from the no makeup Lim Ju or the jacket from the pretty Lim Ju. At that point, she made the decision to wear the helmet to hide her face. As she was pretending to look inside her bag, he asks for the comic book. Lim Ju is overjoyed to learn what Lee wanted and gives the book. Then she attempts to leave immediately. But Lee Seo requests her to have the coffee he ordered and also insists on removing her helmet. Lim Ju gets scared and quickly runs towards the bathroom to wash off her makeup, and comes back. Later, Lim Ju returns him his jacket, and as she leaves, Han Seo comes and she bumps into him. Han Seo then recalls his memory and recognizes her. At the playground, Han Seo meets with Lim Ju. Lim Ju pretends to not know him, but he asks her to return the helmet. The next day at school, Minna's boyfriend throws a surprise party for their 100th day anniversary. Suddenly, as they were having fun, one of them threw the cake at the couple, but they moved aside and Lim Ju got in the way. Now Lim Ju is afraid that if she takes off her makeup, people will find out the real her and will make fun of her. When Lim Ju bolts for the bathroom, everyone runs after her. She's so scared by this. But that is when Lee Seo arrives. He removes his jacket, hides Lim Ju from everyone and then takes her away with him. Following the arrival of the teacher, everyone returns to their classes. Lee Seo drops her to the nearest bathroom where Lim Ju manages to put her makeup on. Afterwards, Lim Ju receives a call from Lee Seo, who requests to meet at the comic book store. When Lim Ju meets with him, she discovers that Lee Seo has discovered her secret. Before she could say anything, her mother comes there calling her name, and she runs away. Lim Ju is now depressed because she knows that someone at school knows her secret and can turn her life back into a living hell. But she cheers up and decides not to fear him. She goes to school where she meets with Lee Seo at the playground. She kneels down before him, begging him not to tell anyone about her secret and promises to follow his every command in return. He assigns Lim Ju errands to run since she promised to obey his instructions. As soon as she sees Lee Seo's message, she gets up and goes to get the juice for him as per his request. Later, When she runs into Han Seo, he reminds her about the helmet and requests that she give it back. When she gets home, she finds out that her brother has already sold the helmet. Next, Lim Ju receives a message from Lee Seo, requesting that she fetch him a specific comic book from the comic store. She hurriedly reaches the store only to find that a kid has already rented the book. She makes several attempts to take the book from him, while Lee Seo looks on from a distance and turns to leave. This gradually becomes a normal thing. He makes her run errands more oftenly, which kind of got her exhausted a bit. Her friends become concerned about her strange behavior. Later, when she runs into Han Seo again, Lim Ju tries to calmly explain that she is looking for the helmet and will return it soon, but Yuna observes them and believes she is being bullied by him. Yuna heads over to tell Han Seo not to harass Lim Ju, or else she will report him to the disciplinary board. When Lee Seo invited Lim Ju for a treat on the school rooftop, and Lim Ju mentioned that she was sick of occasionally having to run these errands, and asks him to order her to do something big for once and end this. In order to comply with her request, Lee Seo promises to stop harassing her in exchange for her participating in the school talent show. Since she wants to put an end to this, she goes to show her dancing talent to audition hall where she gives a mind-blowing dancing performance but later finds out that she entered the wrong hall, while Lee Seo watches her. Once more, Lee Seo asks her to meet him at the park with a comic book. Lim Ju dashes to get the book and makes her way to the park, where she unexpectedly trips and falls. The people there, rather than trying to help her, start making fun of her appearance, which brought back memories of her previous life. She goes to Lee Seo and gives him the book, but she is upset and wonders why she is being treated so poorly by everyone. She is also fed up with having to run errands for Lee Seo. When she begins to cry, Lee Seo becomes concerned. He covers her with his jacket and leaves for the convenience store. Han Seo notices him when he returns from the convenience store. Lee Seo finds her sitting on the bench. He treats her injury and also apologizes to her for not caring about her feelings as Han Seo watches them from afar. Later, in the cafeteria, Lim Ju thanks Lee Seo for the bandage, which makes Han Seo jealous and causes him to approach Lee and throw his plate. Then he approaches Lim Ju and sits beside her. She is perplexed, but Han Seo says he wants to eat with her. Then Lee Seo approaches him and grabs his shoulder. Han Seo stands up and punches Lee Seo, causing him to fall. Lee Seo stands up, and as he is about to hit him, a teacher intervenes and stops him. Later, false rumors start to circulate throughout the school that Lim Ju was asked out by both Lee Seo and Han Seo. Meanwhile, Lee Seo and Han Seo meet again, and Han Seo is angry with him because Lee Seo failed to prevent their best friend Seo-jun from committing suicide. Lee Seo gets depressed thinking about his friend Seo-jun, and feels guilty for his passing. He then remembers an old memory of meeting Lim Ju for the first time and getting along with her while she tried to make him laugh. When Lim Ju eventually shows up, she approaches him and notices his dejected expression. She tries to cheer him up and asks him to let her know if he wants to talk about something. Later on in the morning, Han Seo and Lim Ju cross paths. Han Seo is intrigued and asks if Lim Ju is dating Lee Seo. However, he does not believe it as he looks at her and walks away. Next, Lim Ju gets fed up with people circulating untrue rumors about their love triangle throughout the school. To avoid such rumors, her friends suggest that she find a real date, and they look for a guy online to go on a date with. Lee Seo watches her as she sets up her date with the random guy, which makes her happy, but she is still nervous because it is her first time going on a date with a stranger. Feeling jealous, Lee Seo asks to go with him instead, but just as abruptly the bus stops at the station and an unknown man sits between them, causing Lee Seo to become enraged and he exits the bus. At the hospital, Han Seo is visiting his mother as she has been discharged. She tells him she needs to be somewhere before going home. Arriving at her friend's beauty salon, who is Lim Ju's mother, Lim Ju recognizes Han Seo right away. Since she is not wearing makeup at the moment, Lim Ju takes the face back from her mother to cover her face. She tries to hide but stumbles and is seen by Han Seo. He finds her hilarious and clicks pictures of her. Following a face wash at home, Lim Ju returns to meet with Han Seo's mother. When they discover that they are classmates, she requests Lim Ju to watch out for him and keep an eye on him when he rides a motorcycle because it is risky. Lim Ju assures her that she will do her best. The next day, after stealing her sister's new dress, she gets ready for her new date and arrives at the restaurant to meet with her blind date. After their self-introductions, they go to a nearby movie theater. However, as they get inside the theater, we notice that Lee Seo is also present there, who has been following Lim Ju. Later on, Lee Seo sees the two about to kiss each other. However, the couple turned out to be someone else. and he gets embarrassed and tries to hide from Lim Ju. The guy says he is amazed to have met her in person and says he would like to go on another date. She gets happy to know and agrees to meet again. But when Lim Ju leaves the scene, another girl arrives to meet with him, which surprises Lee So as he watches. And he gets to know that the guy is a player. Lee So teaches him a lesson to never contact her again and cancel their date. The following morning, Han Seo rides his motorcycle to school, and when Lim Ju takes a picture of him, it infuriates him. But in addition, he threatens her not to inform his mother by displaying a photo of her that he took the other day. In the classroom, her friend Sue asks her about her blind date, and with a sad face, she shows her phone. Sue starts to read their conversation out loud that the guy indirectly rejected Lim Ju, claiming that he already has a girlfriend, and Han Seo starts making fun of her. Later, Lim Ju and others go to a nearby library to a group study and find Lee So there waiting for them. Since Lim Ju is weak in math, she takes help from Lee So, the math genius. Afterwards, they plan to go to a karaoke studio. While they are having fun, we notice that Han Seo is also there, singing a really nice song in a different room. Then suddenly, Lim Ju notices Han Seo's motorcycle parked outside. She goes to have a look. However, as she was checking his bike, Han Seo notices her. Then, Lim Ju sees Lee So too and pulls Han Seo out of his line of sight, but he sees them. While she was attempting to clarify why she had pulled him in that manner, Han Seo's adversaries showed up to exact revenge on him, but Lim Ju fled with him once more, and Lee So sees the two getting followed by them and runs after them. But after Lim Ju and Han Seo manage to hide from the punks, but Lee So finds himself in trouble. They think Lee So is Han Seo's friend and demand that he call them. However, Lee So fights back and manages to put them down with ease thanks to his skill at fighting. Since Lim Ju doesn't have money for her way home, Han Seo had to take her home on his motorcycle. As they arrive at her house, they meet with Lee So waiting for them there. As the two start to argue with each other, Lim Ju's sister arrives. She appears to be dejected and intoxicated, so they had to take her home together, but regrettably, she pukes all over Lee So's jacket. Lim Ju gets embarrassed, however she apologizes as she takes his jacket to wash it later. Following that, Han Seo confesses that he has grown fond of Lim Ju and asks Lee So directly if he feels the same way. However, he wasn't able to tell his feelings towards her. The following day, Han Seo comes up to her and hands her the keys to his motorcycle. Additionally, he promises to follow her every instruction going forward. This confuses her, so she tries to give the keys back to him, but he will not accept it, telling her that it is her job to stop him from riding his motorcycle in public. He also gives her a juice bottle. But she meets with him once more, returns the keys to him, and walks out. Still, he is able to return the keys to her. When she takes out the juice Han Seo gave her, Lee So becomes enraged, hands it to someone else, and then gives her another one according to her preferences. Lim Ju is both shocked and surprised by his behavior, but she is also happy about it. Later, Han Seo goes to eat with Lim Ju, which irritates her. She orders him to stay away from her and stop talking to her, but he refuses. Then he asks his friends to bring her favorite snacks. They buy her 3 plates, which irritates her. And upon noticing, Han Seo keeps her hair out of the food, and someone snaps a photo of them. Subsequently, they reunite in the gallery, when someone bumps into her, and Han Seo shields Lim Ju's head from injury as Lee So and other students congregate around them. She gets to her feet fast, accuses him of causing her to fall, and immediately turns away. Later on in the day, Lim Ju witnesses a girl named Hango being bullied by her fellow stage singers, who are jealous of her success as the lead vocalist. As Lim Ju gets home, she sees her little brother pretending to be cool on Han Seo's motorcycle. She's also angry to see his motorcycle parked outside her house. Later on, she receives a call from Lee So. He asks her to meet with him outside for a talk. Following their conversation, they begin playing basketball. Just as she is about to fall, Lee So catches her in his arms. Upon returning to her residence, he spots Han Seo's motorcycle there and requests the keys from her so he can give it back to Han Seo. The next day, Han Seo gets a call from someone, informing him that his motorcycle was towed from Lim Ju's house. Then Lee So arrives there throwing a ball at him. When asked the reason to do so, he informs her that Han Seo is on clean-up duty, and asks to do it if he wants his motorcycle back, and he gets to know it was him who took it. In another scene we see the mean girls bullying Hango in the toilet. Then suddenly Lim Ju pours a bucket of water over them. Embarrassed by the bullying, Hango quickly runs away from there. Lim Ju follows and finds her on the rooftop. When Lim Ju looks at her, It reminds her of her past, which makes her want to help her. Then, in an attempt to assist her, she begins watching online makeup tutorials. When she eventually meets Lee So, he gets curious and she informs him that she has discovered a girl at school who is going through a similar experience as her. She feels bad for her and wants to help her with makeup. However, according to Lee So, Lim Ju is beautiful, even without makeup, which surprises her. She quickly leaves as the bus arrives. Lim Ju has started to believe that he has developed feelings for her, and when she informs her online friends about it, they tell her to ask him out on a date. Lee So couldn't believe he actually said her that, but he soon gets a message from Lim Ju inviting him to see a movie with her. Although she's scared, but Lee So agrees to her movie date. Afterwards, he receives a call from Han Seo and goes to meet with him. He returns the key and lets him know that he likes Lim Ju, asking him to stay away from her. Like and comment for part 2, guys, and I'll provide the links in the comments section.